From the Louisiana Superdome in New Orleans, home of the Saints, this is the U.S. Hot Rod Association Triple Crown of Motorsports. Hello, everyone. I'm Larry Huffman with you to call the action, Margo King. And Margo, the Saints aren't going to come marching in tonight, but the ground is going to rumble. We've got the monster trucks, the mud bog drag racers, and the world's only jet-powered funny car taking on a top-fuel dragster. But the crowd here, I think, is looking at this rivalry, this Ford-Chevy rivalry between Bigfoot and Bearfoot.
And it's one that's been going on for a decade, Ford versus Chevy. But that's not the only rivalry here. Bob Chandler versus Fred Schaefer. They started out as friends. They've got some scores to settle tonight.
Bob Chandler, the builder of Bigfoot, the world's first monster truck, and Fred Schaefer, the builder of Bearfoot, the world's premier Chevy monster truck. And to top it all, Danny Reed, the human bomb, will explode 2 sticks of dynamite in a coffin on the field. It's going to be wild, so don't go away. We'll be right back with all the action. Ford Budweiser U.S. Hot Rod Triple Crown of Motorsports from the New Orleans Superdome and the Battle of the Monster Trucks, the Ford versus Chevy Showdown. And that's what the people are out here for tonight, to see the battle between Bigfoot and Bearfoot. Earlier today, Margo and I talked with the drivers.
It was in 1981 when Bob Chandler took his then friend, Fred Schaefer, and Bearfoot to their first indoor monster truck event. Needless to say, their relationship has deteriorated severely since then. Tell us what happened that night, Fred.
Well, when Bob Chandler came out on the floor first, I think he's seen a good applause from the Ford fans out there, but I don't think he was ready for the amount of Chevrolet fans that we had out there, and I believe it put a scare into him.
Well, in 1987, the competition fired back up, but not without controversy.
Yeah, United States Hot Rod Association is the only one that's had me come in here to take on Bob Chandler. I think they are sure that I'm the #1 guy that can take him if anybody can, and that's why they have me here today.
But don't you feel a little bit like the underdog? I mean, you're Fred Schaefer up against the Ford Motor Company.
That is right. You're not just taking on Bob Chandler, you're taking on part of Ford Motor Company at the same time, and it's a pretty big step to take.
Well, and the step he's going to make in 3 stages tonight, and he's going to try to prove that at last Bearfoot reigns all supreme.
The confrontation between the Ford and the Chevy tonight, Bigfoot versus Bearfoot. Rich Hooser, the driver of Bigfoot. You have a 300 horsepower disadvantage, 700 horsepower to Bearfoot's 1,000 horsepower. How do you overcome that?
Well, with the horsepower the way it is, I'm going to try to have to outdrive Fred. He's got 300 more horsepower than I do with Bigfoot, so I'm going to have to try to outdrive him and beat him that way. 3 types of competition. You've got the wheel stand. You're going to be pulling a sled in the second type of competition. And then the third, you're going to be jumping over cars. Which is the toughest for you? Oh, they're all 3 going to be tough. Fred's good competition. Pulling the sled, I think we should be pretty much the same. He might have a little bit more horsepower on me, so I'm going to have to try to get it right off the line because it's going to be on time. And jumping the cars, hopefully I'll have good. This truck's built tough, and it's not going to break on me. I sure hope so. It seems to be somewhat dangerous jumping. We watched you at Detroit, at Pontiac. That's kind of scary. Yes, it can be. If you don't hit the cars straight, you could go off to the side, and if you bounce the wrong way, you could actually flip it over on its side or on its roof. Which is tougher, Bigfoot or Bearfoot? We'll find out tonight.
And here's Fred Schaefer bringing out Bearfoot for the first leg of the monster truck competition, the pulling event. A 25-ton sled that must be pulled down 200 feet of track. The object of this game, who can do it the quickest. That's right. It's a timed event, not the distance, Margo, because they figure both of these vehicles will make it all the way through the 200 feet. So Bearfoot on the line, a little bit of an advantage in 2 departments here, a little more horsepower, 1,000 horsepower to Bigfoot's 700, yet Bearfoot weighs 14,000 pounds to Bigfoot's 15,000 pounds. And there he goes. But he stands 12 feet from the ground, taller than Bigfoot. Couple of fans there cheering him on. Bearfoot making his run through. And the time is 10:21. That's a tough time to beat. Looking awfully good, Bearfoot. Setting the pace for Bigfoot. Bearfoot rolls off the track, and we'll see what Bigfoot can do. And here comes Bigfoot, the king of the monster trucks, the first one of them all. And the fans love this big Ford, let me tell you. Coming out strong, Bigfoot. Again, only 700 horsepower, only 700 horsepower. To Bearfoot's 1,000 and 1,000 pounds heavier.
15,000 pounds.
Look how low his truck sits to the tires. He's only 10.5 feet tall compared to Barefoot's 12 foot. Means Bigfoot should be able to get that power to the ground a little better.
Yeah, but Rich, a very good driver, a lot of experience in piloting this big machine. There's George Smith of Bigfoot's crew checking the hookup on this. Very, very crucial, the hookup. It's got to be right. And the Ford hooks up. Ford versus Chevy competition. The Chevy, a very torquey engine, a little more horsepower, a little less weight. The edge should go to Barefoot. 10:21 is what he's got to beat. Here we go. Not a real fast one, and remember, they're going for time as they pull that incredibly huge sled. 25 tons all the way down the other end. The tires grip on the ground beautifully. And it looks close. Let's wait the time from the track officials, but it looked as if Bigfoot may have gotten a better start out of the hole. And look at that. An upset, 9:43 of all events in this competition. This is the one that Fred was really counting on. Tough break, Margo.
That's right, because Fred had this one, he thought, in the bag. And there we have the cameraman giving us an inside view of what it looks like if you're a car ready to be crushed by a monster truck.
12 junkyard cars. They were once somebody's dream cars, and they're going to be part of the next event. This is the drag race over the cars, and it's a timed event over 12 cars by the monster trucks. That's what it looks like, but they won't look like that for long.
Again, Barefoot is supposed to have the advantage. Again, horsepower should play a part here.
Well, Bigfoot surprised a lot of people here in the Louisiana Superdome in the first round. Let's see what Barefoot can do now. More horsepower, a little bit lighter. This is a drag race, a timed event over 12 cars.
He's going to have to be more aggressive here. He's just going to have to come out of the hole and charge at those cars because it's obvious that Bigfoot is here to win and Barefoot's just got to be more aggressive.
Again, it's a timed event. They're going on the clock. Barefoot coming up first. The big Chevrolet against the Ford of Bigfoot. And here we go, the drag race over 12 cars. The big Barefoot machine on the line. Gassing it, hitting the first car, and backing off, Margo, not that aggressive.
It's a problem because he pulled the first run. The cars aren't crushed. He's got to be a little careful hitting that first car.
Well, I'm telling you, let's take another look in slow motion from a different camera angle. He's slowing way down, almost stopping, then coming up and over the cars.
I can only guess that that strategy was to hit the cars easier, not get so much air. But as you can see, it didn't make any difference. He was not going to go real fast no matter what he did.
The time, 7.91 seconds. And again, Fred lost valuable time getting onto the cars. That could be the difference between a win and not a win. There's Bob Chandler, the owner and originator of Bigfoot, the man responsible for the whole monster truck phenomena. This is a big event for the whole Bigfoot organization, and Chandler's serious.
We can see who he's rooting for.
No question about that. One of Bigfoot's big fans. Well, here we go. This is Bigfoot. Bigfoot 1 and Barefoot 0 going into this race. Let's see what Bigfoot can do. The Ford entry. And the Ford and Chevy fans are almost equally divided here tonight in New Orleans. You might have noticed Bob Chandler with a video camera. He sets the cameras on the crushed cars to monitor the performance. They are always modifying and improving upon Bigfoot. And Bigfoot's reputation is on the line tonight. Rich lines it up. He's got to look out the driver's window. He can't look out through the windshield because he can't see the cars direct on, especially when he hits them, because he's going straight up in the air. There he goes, and up, and again, he does not slow down, Margo King. He keeps the pedal to the metal.
Over the cars with the pedal on the metal, too, and for a bouncy landing.
Well, it looked to me, to my untrained eye, that Bigfoot pulled that one off again. Another look at it. Different angle, slow motion. Again, he does not back off.
He hits the cars harder. He got a lot of air, but because he had all that momentum going, it drove him quickly across those 12 cars.
Hits the ground and bounces and rocks and rolls. Again, another look at it, and there's a clocking 6.75 seconds. The winner. This has been an unexpected upset. Bigfoot 2 and Barefoot 0. We'll be right back with side-by-side mud bog drag racing action from the Superdome.
And
Welcome back to the Ford Budweiser U.S. Hot Rod Triple Crown of Motorsports. Larry Huffman and Margo King caught all the action, and now the side-by-side mud bog drag racing. The top 2 times of the preliminaries will go to the finals. And we've got a problem, Margo King, with the Nitro Express.
Clay Langley is busily having his mechanics work on his car. Doesn't look like he can get it to fire up.
Looks like it might be overheated. Now, remember, they don't run a radiator in these cars because they only run 3 to 4 second durations of the entire run. And they're trying to prime it now and get it started.
Well, at this point, Chris, I think he wishes he could use a radiator, but he can't even get it started.
That was Jim Harris in the white shirt, and Harris has just reported us that Clay his starter has gone out, and the Mudbuster will run by itself. Bill Grismore of Metairie, Louisiana, in a 1987 Ford Thunderbird. Custom chassis, a Monster 460 Ford engine, modified to 504 cubic inches, 1,000 horsepower, running on alcohol. It's injected. Look out.
He's got the advantage of being the first one to run. The staging area is dry. He should get a great gate. This should be a good run for the Mudbuster.
This is an unreal car. 1,000 horsepower on alcohol, and he blasts down through the mud. And gets some air, gets up in the air, and slows it down. The Mudbuster goes through.
Looks like the crowd approves.
These are the funny cars of mud bog drag racing. Slow motion look at it. Look at the mud spewing up in the air.
Looks like that ASA dirt track flexi frame made his car do exactly what it's supposed to do over the mud. Plain out.
Oh, here's another look at it from the ground level, going into that huge, gooey, sticky, ugly mud pit. And he's got a beautiful time, 2.88 seconds through the mud. That fast start will set the pace for tonight's competition.
Must have been those double-decker air cleaners he's got on there.
Yep. The next round in the far lane, that's Wildfire, Little Rock, Arkansas, Richard Whitfield. And in the near lane, Chevy Underglass, Terry Marchang of Largo, Florida, an 86 Sprint car, a Sprint drag car with a tube chassis, 2,100 pounds, 900 horsepower. Both these machines putting out close to 1,000 horsepower. On the line, far lane, Wildfire, close up to us, Chevy Underglass. And there they go. And Chevy Underglass rockets down there all the way through the chutes. Easy win for Chevy Underglass.
He left the other competition in the mud, not dust.
Wildfire, a little less horsepower, actually, I understand. 300 horsepower. A little bit heavier, and it was Chevy Underglass all the way. Beautiful run.
Let's see where Wildfire went wrong.
A clocking 2.64 seconds for the Wildfire machine.
Now to look at that run, he planed up good, had a good run, but just wasn't getting that horsepower hooked up and driving him fast enough through the pit.
Having a terrible time there slowing down as he gets all the way through the mud, too. Chevy Underglass, here's the winner. Let's look at him. A good straight drive into the mud, trying to keep those front wheels up on the top of the mud, planing across them. Looking strong. Chevy Underglass. No wasted motion, no sideways motion whatsoever as he goes through the traps. So the Chevy Underglass machine of Largo, Florida, all the way through. Beautiful, straight as an arrow. 2.38 seconds. It's the fastest time so far. Next up, the 1987 national champion and current point series leader, the Great White Hope. That's Mike Fair, national champion from Mishawaka, Indiana. An attitude adjustment, a relative newcomer to the sport, only been driving a year, 17 years old, Charlie Pasina. The Great White Hope, the greatest amount of horsepower here tonight, 1,400 horsepower, and look at him go, and locks up the wheels up onto the safety dirt barricade. Mike Fair shows why he's the national champion, Margo King.
He had 1,400 horsepower compared to attitude adjustment 600, and he was able to hook it up. That's the tricky part.
You know, he knows what he's doing, too. Mike Fair is an experienced competitor. He knows exactly how to set up the car and how to drive.
When he's not drag racing, he's home building frames for these mud bog drag racers.
Take another look at it. The Great White Hope through the traps. Look at that beautifully. The time, 2.31 seconds, the fastest time so far tonight. Mike Fair is bringing home the bacon. Locks up the wheels, and look at him sliding sideways, steering right into the turn. That's what you're supposed to do. Let's take a look at attitude adjustment. Gets off the line a little bit slower, sinks down into it. Again, as Margo said, down on horsepower, 3.04 seconds.
But he's got good form, good style. That's where you've got to start. He's a beginner.
Next up, the vehicle with the least amount of horsepower in the field, and the vehicle with one of the oldest car bodies on the circuit. That Salty Puppy. And that's in the far lane. There he goes, Salty Puppy. Mike Landish of Louisiana, running only 375 horsepower on aviation gasoline.
I don't know. I liked his windshield wipers going there. On track 2, we've got Whiskey Bent and Hellbound.
Robert Precor of Deltona, Florida, 1927 Ford two-window coupe. And Whiskey Bent and Hellbound is hellbound all the way through as he goes right up on the dirt. There's an interesting look at it. Whiskey Bent and Hellbound gets through the traps first. Good look at it. Let's see. The time to beat is 2.31 seconds from the Great White Hope. Let's take another look at it. This is the Salty Puppy.
With his windshield wipers going.
And the clocking for Salty Puppy, 3.68 seconds.
Remember, he's a heavy equipment operator, and his Jeep weighs in at 3,100 pounds. He's operating some tonight.
And down on horsepower, only about 375 horsepower on aviation gasoline. Let's take a look at Whiskey Bent and Hellbound. A good launch, Margo King, right down through the traps. A 2.44 second clocking.
A beautiful run.
No question about that. 2.44, not as fast as the Great White Hope, however. Don't go away. We'll be back with more side-by-side mud bog drag racing action. Welcome back to the Ford Budweiser U.S. Hot Rod Triple Crown of Motorsports. And it's anyone's race here in the Louisiana Superdome. So far, only 0.13 of a second separate the top 3 drivers. We're not even halfway finished. In track 1, the far lane, that's Crazy Horse, Billy Ray McWilliams Jr. In the near lane, track 2, no assembly required, Keith Descant, the first run ever for this driver. They line up. Both vehicles on the line. The time set so far, 2.31 seconds by Mike Fair. And there goes the Mustang. All the way through first, but they are running against the clock, remember, just like normal drag racing. The Crazy Horse backs off that dirt barricade. It is a unique full-tilt hydraulic lift body. It is a funny car.
But those aren't painted polka dots on that body. Billy Ray took this car off of a circle mud racing circuit, decided it needed to be lighter for mud drag racing, and drilled 2,500 holes in that body to make it lighter.
Looks like a piece of Swiss cheese. Billy Ray McWilliams Jr., the Crazy Horse, the clocking 2.99 seconds. And experience paid off. There's only 50 horsepower difference between those two vehicles. Billy Ray. Looks like termites have been after that body as he locks up the wheels and slams into the dirt barricade. No assembly required. Let's look at him off the line. Quite a heavy machine, but he launches very straight. A little slower, though, 3.74 seconds. So, the Crazy Horse takes it.
Not too bad, considering this is his first race ever today.
The next round brings out the Terminator. Jesse Jacob of Avondale, Louisiana. 1980 Chevy Blazer, looks very, very stock. That's the Terminator in the far lane, track number 1. Jesse Jacob, Louisiana. And here is the stud. Mike Posina from Metairie, Louisiana. 1981 Toyota pickup. As both vehicles come up on the line.
We had a chance to see Michael's brother earlier today driving attitude adjustment.
Michael owns that, and Charlie drives it. Here we go. They're lining up on the line. The crews aligning the vehicles, setting them up straight. The Terminator to the far lane, the stud the near lane. And here we go. They're set. Starter says, let's go, gentlemen. We're ready to roll. Flame coming out of the Terminator stack, belching fire. Look at that. Right as they crossed the finish line, we saw a little bit of flame, then a big puff of bright yellow flame.
The stud, I think, was going to the sandwich stand.
Going through the strawberry patch, taking a shortcut. It's a strawberry shortcake. Cut. This is the Terminator. Comes out. Look at that left-hand stack as we look at it. The clocking 2.91 seconds. Possibly an excess buildup of nitrous. Watch it now as he goes across the line. Looks like a flamethrower.
Lucky for Jesse, he works in a wrecking yard. He's got plenty of good access to spare parts.
2.91 seconds for the Terminator. Now let's look at the stud. The Toyota pickup. And one of the few Toyota pickups we see in mud bog drag racing. The stud, 2.94 seconds, 3/100ths of a second slower than the Terminator.
But Michael works in a 4x4 shop, so that's probably why he chose that Toyota pickup. A lot of 4x4 Toyotas out there.
Boy, they slam the brakes on. They don't want to run into that dirt pile. That stops them real fast. The next round. That is Whiplash in track number 2, owned by John and Mary Willis. That's the near side. The far side, that's the A-Team 2, Dick Wilson of Dade City, Florida. It's a 1987 Jeep, 1,200 horsepower. Here comes the A-Team.
Now there's a shot of Rodney Perry, who drives the car for John Willis. He decided that Rodney was a lot more crazier than he was, so he let him drive. 1,000
horsepower, 468 Chevy, running alcohol with nitrous oxide. Set and pull the pin. Whiplash comes. Look at the size of those headers. Boy. The Whiplash machine coming up. Raw horsepower, 1,000 horsepower. With the horsepower and weight distribution shown here, at least one of these two should be in the finals. These are two of the very, very strong favorites. Look at those wheels and tires.
Rodney spent 40 hours cutting those tires. He's pretty proud of those.
By hand. There we go. Look at that. Oh, Nelly. Oh, the crowd liked that. There's the A-Team, but he got off slow, and the front wheels dug right in, Margo.
Launched off the pad, but he lost a lot of momentum when his front end dug out. You've got to keep that front end planed out. That's where setting up your suspension comes in.
Not too bad. 2.70 seconds for the A-Team 2. But let's take a look at Whiplash. This could be interesting. Look at him get off the line now. Watch in slow motion. Launches it. Very, very strong. The front end comes up. Look at the shocks work in front. Gets up on top of the mud and blasts through. He's got an look at this, 2.27 seconds. The fastest time so far, and the Great White Hope is suddenly relegated to second.
But when you work at the Kennedy Space Center, you ought to have some engineering under your belt.
We'll be back with more side-by-side mud bog action from the Superdome. Don't go away. Back to the Ford Budweiser U.S. Hot Rod Triple Crown of Motorsports. Larry Huffman and Margo King calling the action for you from the beautiful city of New Orleans. In the near lane, that is Nitro Express. And it was ready earlier, but there's some kind of a malfunction. In the far lane, outrageous, track 2, Larry Kalikas, a 1982 Corvette with 2 Predators. But there's some kind of a problem with the Nitro Express. They're trying to get it started.
Our first clue is Clay is not in the seat. He's behind his car.
Tells you something real fast, doesn't it? There's Larry Kalikas. That's outrageous, the Corvette. And we're ready to go. Apparently they're going to run it. He's going to run by himself. 27 years old, been racing for 4 years. Kalikas. Look at the airbox on that, and the headers coming out of the top. 750 horsepower and 82 Corvettes.
Yeah, because they're running against the clock, that's why Clay is they're allowing him to keep working on his car. If he can just get it done before the end of the preliminaries.
Outrageous. Let's look at him as he goes through the mud. The mud, the blood, and the beer here in the Superdome. Outrageous, 3.28 seconds. That's why you don't need a radiator, because the runs are only 3 to 4 seconds long.
On lane 2, it's Addicted to Mud. It's Larry Atoni out of Metairie, Louisiana. He's 22 years old and...
It's Metairie, Louisiana. Close.
Where is that?
Addicted to Mud, and there's Alcoholic 2. Dale Hickey. It's a 1,000 horsepower 1927 Ford Roadster, a 378 Chevy engine running alcohol with nitrous oxide. Alcoholic 2. They line up on the line. Addicted to Mud, the near lane. Alcoholic 2 on the far lane. Addicted gets off the line first. Look out! Oh, Alcoholic 2 gets over on the side and takes out the pole and will probably be disqualified. That's the rule, Margo King. If you go off the track, and he went completely off, spun all the way around, he will probably be disqualified because of that. And hopefully we'll see it in slow motion. And try to figure out exactly what happened. Here it is in slow motion. Now watch what happens. Belch of fire coming out underneath. Another belch of fire, Margo, and then into the mud.
An obvious loss of power there. You can see where he dips in, gets hung up in a rut, and tries to steer away from the pole, but to no avail.
And we have been informed that the Alcoholic has been disqualified for going out of the boundary before the finish line. And that's exactly what happened. Let's take a look at Addicted to Mud, and let's check the time. Again, he's got to beat a 2:31 to get into the finals. Straight on at us, a 2.66 seconds. Not bad, but not good enough.
Not bad for only a 400 horsepower motor here.
That's true. Addicted to Mud. Clay Langley and his Nitro Express finally ready to run. It's been a long night for this crew. A 1932 Chevy, a 1932 Austin with a 393 Chevy motor.
So when you've been in this business for 11 years, he's used to long nights.
That's the track crew aligning the Nitro Express. This is it. Rodney Perry in the finals. Can Clay beat Mike's spare time of 2.31 seconds? It's a single run. Gets through, locks up the wheels. Maybe locked them a little bit too early. all the way through the Nitro Express after having a number of problems. That is your basic bare bones mud bogger, Margo King.
That's a homemade bent steel frame, a little heavy when most of the sophisticated machines here have tubular frames. But Clay can make this heavy old thing work. He planes up, it operates the way it should, it's just a little slow.
2.47 seconds for the Nitro Express, and that's good enough for 4th place. There you go, rocking and rolling through the mud. Look at those header pipes sticking straight about 6 feet up in the air. So the Nitro Express finally makes a run. It's good for 4th place. So the finalists, the Great White Hope, 2.43 seconds, and Whiplash, 2.25 seconds. And now something a little bit different. These are experimental mud bogging machines modified by William Cunningham of Kenner, Louisiana. They're 3-wheelers. Unfortunately, there are still some bugs to be worked out. A few problems. Track 1, Gerald Kuhn Colopi on Delirious. That's a Yamaha 3-wheeler with a small bike tire in front, 2 scoop tires in the rear. Track 2, the creator's grandson, Billy Bishop, on the Honda Busting Loose. That's the Yamaha, I believe.
Now his motor continues to run, it looks like, but no motion forward. Maybe he lost a chain.
He's got wheelie bars extending off the back. Look at this. Trying to keep the front wheel on the ground, but he does not stay on the throttle.
We have some radical throttle and clutching going on there.
Doing an impersonation of Doug DeMocus, the Wheelie King, but not wanting to look like that. Gets through the mud. That's the Yamaha there. Okay, that's the Yamaha. The other is the Honda. They're painted a little differently, folks. There's another look. Look at him. Front wheel staying down, but he's slipping and sliding through the mud and the muck. Looks back behind. Yep, they're still turning. Yep, they just stopped. Experimental 3-wheelers. Coming up, the world's only jet-powered funny car taking on a AA fuel dragster. This is going to be wild. Welcome back to the U.S. Hot Rod Triple Crown of Motorsports, brought to you in part by Ford, America's best-built truck. And coming up now, one of the most bizarre events in pulling. This is a top fuel dragster. It's built to pull. Buschmaster. First up, he'll be going against Tim Arfons in Starfire, a top fuel dragster versus a turbo engine funny car. Earlier, Margo and I visited with the drivers.
You see them on drag strips all across the country, but on a dirt track at a truck pull, top fuel dragster driver Mike Hollingsworth driving the Buschmaster. It looks like a dragster on the outside, but is it a top fuel car on the inside?
It's close. The big difference between us and Top Fuel is the heavier rear end. Top Fuel weighs about 1,800 pounds. We weigh 6,000 pounds. Our frame is built exactly the same, except we use heavier metal, and our steering is set up a little bit stronger than Top Fuel boys are.
Now, these tires don't look like Top Fuel tires to me, Mike.
Now, we use the Dick C-Peck puller tires, which are made strictly for tractor pulling to get the traction we need to pull the sled. And we've been using those for years, but the slicks just won't do the job for us.
This car has got to be a kick to drive. What does it feel like?
It's a lot of fun. It doesn't have the speed of drag racing, but it has the feel of the power trying to pull a 60,000-pound sled that doesn't want to move. So we get the same sensation as a drag racer would.
Now, you're running up against a turbine motor. It's got a lot more horsepower than you. Can you beat him?
Oh, yeah, I believe I can. I believe I can outdrive him. It's going to be a driver's track tonight. It's going to take a little bit of common sense on when to get on the motor and when not to, and I'm just going to outdrive him.
Well, we're going to see if driving finesse wins this one tonight.
The only jet-powered pulling funny car in the world is called Starfire. It is owned and driven by Turbo Tim Arfons. Tell us about this machine. What about the engine?
Well, it's powered by a General Electric T-58 helicopter engine. It's a gas turbine. Produces 1,500 horsepower at 30,000 RPM, and it's a one-of-a-kind power plant.
How does this compare to what you'll be going up against tonight, the Bushwhacker, as far as power?
Power is comparable. My major disadvantage is going to be in the wheelbase. He's got a lot longer wheelbase, therefore he can put more weight on the rear axle.
Now, the first time you went up against Bushwhacker, he broke.
Right, we ran against him in Springfield, Missouri, and he broke right off the line. It wasn't a true test. So
interesting confrontation, because you've got a top fuel dragster powered by a monster V8 engine, blown and everything, and you're going up against a jet-powered funny car. That's an interesting confrontation.
It will be interesting. I almost can guarantee I'm going to win, though.
What's the toughest part about driving a jet-powered funny car?
Getting it out of the hole. The first 50 feet of the track, getting everything accelerating, especially the track conditions we're going to have here tonight. It's It's going to be a little slick, so it's going to be a little bit more of a driver's game to get moving.
But the wheels don't turn, do they? I mean, it's a jet, right?
No, it's wheel-driven. It's a turbine.
Oh, okay. So it is wheel-driven.
Right. Everything's going to the rear wheels, and the only thing coming out is the fire out the roof.
And that's kind of an awesome thing to see.
Oh, that's the part that really turns the crowd on.
But the Starfire will win tonight, you feel?
I sure hope so.
Well, we'll find out as a jet-powered funny car takes on a top-fuel dragster tonight. And here we go, ready with the Buschmaster, lining up on the line, going for a full pull, which is 200 feet. Margo, explain exactly how that works.
The pull is measured from the front of the sled, where the sled stops in regards to the white line we'll see at the end of the track. They have to get the sled up to that white line to be measured a full pull.
Right behind the driver's seat, you can just barely see them there, are the heavy steel plates that they add to add weight, depending on the track surface, the track condition. All right, we're set to go. The Buschmaster, off the line. Down that track, trying to keep the front wheels up in the air, or down, rather, from going up in the air. And Margo, that could be a problem, but he can still steer with the rear wheels.
But look at all the roofs his rear tires are throwing up. He's really got too much wheel spin there, and he digs in.
That's
not
the problem.
driving.
Won't go any further. Once he starts spinning, it is not a full pull for the Buschmaster. The track is 200 feet long, and Mike is not too happy about that. Not happy at all. Another look at it in slow motion. Completely under control, no problems getting off the line. Now the front wheels start lifting up, but he can adjust through the rear wheels. He can actually drive through the rear wheels, and now the spin begins, Margo.
But you can see that really he lost traction early in the game. I think he came on the throttle a little too early and started too much wheel spin. Not good when you're trying to get that 200 feet.
Boy, it's really important. There's the measurement right there, and it is not a full pull.
They're measuring from that pile of dirt that the sled pushed up to the line.
Mike Hollingsworth goes over, signs a few autographs. Very popular young man with the crowd, but it's not to be, at least not a full pull. We'll see if Tim Arfons and Starfire can do any better.
And here's the news from the track crew. It's 177 feet, 8 inches.
So just a little less than 23 feet less of a full pull. And this is Starfire. And this guy has got to be the crowd favorite, Tim Arfons. The Arfons family out of Akron, Ohio. The safety features of the U.S. Hot Rod Association. Interesting points about this. They've got to use 2 hooks in case one breaks. And they're hooking it up right now to the back of the Starfire.
And we're talking boat anchor hooks.
You could anchor the Enterprise with those hooks, let me tell you. Starfire, a helicopter turbine-powered funny car. And nobody knows more about turbines and jet engines than the Arfons family.
Now that's an interesting point right there, the dead man switch.
That's a kill switch that's being connected, and if it breaks or pulls off, then it kills the engine, correct?
That's right. Immediately kills the motor should the car get disconnected from the sled.
The whole family is into motorsports, the Arfons family. Art Arfons, you might remember him. He held the world land speed record twice and is still racing jet dragsters, but indoors now in the U.S. Hot Rod Association pulling on the circuit. His sister Dusty is the only woman to compete in the 7,200-pound dragster tractor pulling class, and she is a fox. Very attractive young lady. They race for the U.S. Hot Rod Association. Now, Arfons has a horsepower advantage. The extended... Whoa, there it is. That's the fire and belch of fire out of the top, and the crowd loves it. The helicopter turbine. Whoa! They love that. And here goes Starfire. The mark to beat, 177.8. Look at it. He comes right off the line. The front wheel comes up, and the wheels don't spin, Margo. He's on the gas.
You could see from the beginning of that pull that he dug in, got great traction from the very beginning, and the crowd is going wild.
The hottest thing on the track. Look at the flames belch out of the top of that funny car. Starfire, the crowd absolutely loves it here. He almost went out of bounds and was disqualified. He came within a couple of feet of the white line border there. There's Tim Arfons, looks up at us. A beautiful run for young Mr. Arfons. He's happy about that. He said, I will not be beat tonight. And that's exactly what happened. He beat the dragster. Here we go. Let's look at it in slow motion. The fire coming up, that's worth the price of admission, folks, right there. Comes off the line. Look at that. About 25 feet in the air. Unreal. Boy, he is a crowd pleaser. There's a slow motion look. The front wheels comes up, but he just hunkers on down and blasts down the line. Now getting a little bit off sideways. A full run for Starfire as he moves almost over to that boundary line. No problems at all, and Arfons goes through it a little bit further. A beautiful show by Tim Arfons. He came, he saw, and he conquered Arfons, notches another victory over the Buschmaster. And coming up, the ultimate grudge match. It's going to continue as Bigfoot and Bearfoot battle to the finish. Thank you, sir, very much.
I can't believe you pulled that off.
This next event is a leaping contest by monster trucks, head-to-head. It has never been done before.
And head-to-head like we've never seen before. Bigfoot on one end of the 12-car lineup, Bearfoot on the other end. At the same time, they're going to jump these cars and head into each other, Larry.
Now, the object of this competition is to get as straight and as high in the air as possible. It's the driver's skill, not the motor skill. They're both fairly equal in horsepower, and they're going to launch off the line. There's Fred Schaefer and Bearfoot looking down the line, his crew coming over and talking to him.
And it looks like Bearfoot has got a problem. They're checking the steering lines there, seeing if there's fluid coming out of it.
Well, I'll tell you, fluid is leaking out. You can see it underneath. Fred Schaefer has been plagued with problems all night long. Well, we've talked with Jim Harris on the floor, and Fred has decided to go for it. Steering problems, hydraulic fluid problems, or not. And there they go. They are getting air, up in the air. That's Bearfoot, and Bigfoot almost goes over. Bigfoot almost rolls, and Margo, that'd be a 9 on the Richter scale.
But he had to get that air as he approached those cars, and that might just be the ticket for the win here for him.
Fluid is still leaking out of the steering line of Bearfoot. And the word from Jim Harris, tech director, Bigfoot has won this event. Let's take another look at the replay. That's Bearfoot right there, and Bigfoot has won. There it is. Bigfoot completely off the cars and almost going over on the left side.
And Bearfoot just creeped over his cars.
His rear wheels didn't even come off the ground. Well, Bob Chandler has just told Rich Hooser to go out and give the crowd a show with Bigfoot. And everybody with the Bigfoot organization is celebrating this one. Rich did an incredible job, outstanding job. Remember now that Bob Chandler videotapes each competition, takes it back to the Bigfoot offices to analyze frame by frame to see where and how he can improve this incredible machine, Bigfoot.
Videotaping has become a major part in all forms of competition that helps you analyze what your equipment's doing.
There you go, showing off a little bit. Bigfoot, flipping around, four-wheel steering, and four-wheel drive. He's happy. He has swept the competition tonight, Margo, and Fred Schaefer did not expect that at all.
It's apparent that Bigfoot is what this crowd came to see, and he's lining up, I don't know. Looks to me like he's staging for a little extra added attraction.
Well, Chandler told him, go on out there and put on a show. You swept it tonight. Let's give the crowd something to look for. And here we go. It's a victory run by Bigfoot. He is strutting his stuff and comes up and again goes over the cars and gets complete air. All four wheels off the ground, off the cars. And he is bouncing down to victory. It is apparent that Bigfoot is what the crowd came to see tonight. Now, it looks like Margo, he's going to do one more for the crowd.
More donuts? Lining up? Nope, he's just lining up to do one more run, it looks like.
That is so hard on the vehicle. Every bit of that machine takes the stress when all 15,000 pounds lands. He sets up again. Rich Hooser looks back around. He's got to look out the driver's window. He can't see out of the windshield when he goes to hit the cars. Full safety suit, full helmet. He looks out the side. Here he comes up again, going for the gold. Gets up again, launches, and lands on the cars. Beautiful. It's Bigfoot's victory dance. And Rich is really giving the fans a show here at the Louisiana Superdome. Look, he spins around. He's happy, Margo.
He's just going on and on and on. They're not going to let him stop.
That's the biggest donut I've ever seen. That is an absolute monster.
Rich is loving this. It's not often he gets to play in that big truck.
That's right, spinning around. Look at the crowd. Look at the reaction from the crowd. He waves, looks up at him. The crowd waving back, giving him the accolades. They love him here. Stops halfway around. There it is, Bigfoot, the most famous monster truck of them all. Rich Hooser of St. Louis, Missouri. Bob Chandler, the builder, the designer, the innovator. And again, he goes back over. He doesn't have to do it. He's putting on a show for the crowd, and he stops. And there goes the hood, the hydraulic tilt hood up. Ladies and gentlemen, Rich Hooser of St. Louis, Missouri. And Bigfoot
And the flash bulbs are flashing.
Don't go away. Coming up, superstar Hollywood stuntman and the last round of mud bog competition. Make one thing perfectly clear. The people of Louisiana love Bigfoot. Rich Hooser, any problems tonight?
Not with my truck, not at all. It ran good, performed real well, and it handled like a dream.
And Bearfoot had some problems. What happened?
Yes, he did. It seemed, I was talking to him earlier, and he said he had problems with his power steering belt coming off, and also then, before we did that last jump, he's hosed for his front steering.
We saw some fluid coming out the bottom.
Right, it was leaking fluid out. So it's, like we said earlier, and with all his horsepower, must have had a little too much. And but the guys back at our shop, my brother Roy and Bob Hal Freeman, they put these trucks together, and I'm going to have to thank them for this show.
What did you think of the response of the crowd tonight, Rich?
Very responsive. They were pretty much, there's a lot of Chevrolet fans out there tonight, but I think we turned them over.
Final question. What did Bob Chandler say to you after the final run?
He said, great show.
And it was a great show. Yeah. Rich Hooser, the driver of Bigfoot, establishing the supremacy of the floor tonight here in New Orleans. And now Hollywood stuntman Danny Reed will T-bone this car off a ramp over 5 or 6 other cars into another car, a parked car. This kid is crazy, Margo. You ever seen this before?
Only in the parking lot at the grocery store I go to.
He comes out of the ramp about 50 miles an hour. There's Jim Harris walking by in front of him. Going to go up on the ramp and then launch into the air. Here we go. The explosions go off and he T-bones that car. Looks like a big Mercury. That's got a lot of, it's about a 2-ton car, about 4,000 pounds. The folks, that's his manager running up there to make sure he's okay. That little girl says she can't believe it either. Pretty bizarre. Danny Reed, Hollywood stuntman. He comes out, shakes his head. Apparently he's okay. Look at this. The fire extinguisher's going off to put out any possible fire in the crowd. They are stunned. Harris gives him his hand. Congratulations, you made it through. He's going to come back a little later, Margo King, and set off 2 sticks of dynamite in a coffin with him inside also.
No wonder he's not smiling.
I wouldn't be smiling either. Coming up, the Mud Bog Drag Racing Finals. Let's take another look at this. This is Danny Reed. Slow motion. Comes up. The explosions go off. The car disappears in a plume of smoke. T-bones it. You can't see much right there. Let's take another angle. Comes out of the tunnel. 45, 50 miles an hour. He's got to guide it perfectly up, and that's a junk car just running long enough to destroy itself. Goes up. Beautiful fireworks going off. He flies through the air. There's a beautiful shot of it. And T-bones another car. Look at his head hit the dash. Full face helmet.
A beautifully planned stunt. Really great.
Really?
Number 10 on the pyrotechnics scale.
No question about it. Well, this is it. The Mud Bog Finals. Mike Fair against Rodney Perry. That's Mike Fair, the Great White Hope. 1987 circuit champion and current points leader. 1927 Chevy Roadster, 1,400 horsepower Chevy engine. He goes up against Whiplash, 22-year-old Rodney Perry. The owners, John and Mary Willis. It's a custom 1949 Willys 1,000 horsepower Chevy engine. Now, he's a part-time driver going up against a professional driver, and Mike Fair is a pro.
Now, this is an unusual matchup because of this. A big meet like this, the pro against the amateur.
But Rodney had the fastest time, Margo, coming into the finals, just a shade behind the Great White Hope. And there we go. And Whiplash gets through the traps first, but let's check the elapsed time. Whiplash locks up and heads right over against the wall. It scares a couple of ladies. There's the Great White Hope. The clocking, 2.43 seconds. Gets through there. The front wheels come up. He locks them up as soon as they come back down. Leans forward, gets a lot of mud on his face shield. Locks it up sideways, spinning and slipping and sliding right up onto the dirt. Oh, boy. And here's Whiplash. Let's check his timeout. He's got to be 2.43 seconds. Made in the USA.
Sure did look like a great run, though, for him.
Perfect run. Looks good. No problems at all. Getting a little bit sideways there at the end. The clocking gets sideways. 2.25 seconds, the winner. And an amateur beats the professional. That's an upset. And that's Mike Fair, and he's not real happy about that. He did a good job, but not quite good enough. So, we'll be back. Stay tuned as Hollywood stuntman Danny Reed attempts to survive 2 sticks of dynamite in a coffin. Rodney Perry, Whiplash, the driver. It looked like Mr. Toad's Wild Ride.
Yeah, it was. It was hairy, real hairy.
No problems there at the end. He's kind of slipping around a little bit.
Yeah, that floor where it gets wet is real super slick. It'll throw you all over.
The start, no problem?
Oh, we got him on the jump. That's the only thing that got us.
That was the main thing.
That was the main thing, get the jump.
John Willis, you're the owner, and you built the engine.
I built the engine, the nitro system. As a matter of fact, I built the whole car, the frame and everything.
You got to be happy tonight.
I am. I'm really happy. This is a dream come true.
And now the grand finale, ladies and gentlemen, and believe me, tonight we go out with a bang. This is Danny Reed, Hollywood stuntman, now originally from Danville, Illinois. And he is going to get in that coffin and ignite 2 sticks of dynamite. Margo King, he's got the safety equipment on, and believe me, he needs it.
I'm real happy about those earplugs he's putting on.
That's right. It's fire suit, mask, aviation headset to cut the noise, and a helmet. That's his manager there on the left. There's Jim Harris up to check things out. Shakes his hand. Now that is a wooden coffin. He calls it a coffin, and the reason it's on top of the dirt, there's not a hole in the bottom to get out, to get into the dirt. It's flat on the bottom. We checked it out. That is to absorb the detonation of the explosion. The dirt is, because the explosion is geared downward or set so it will explode downward. Watch this. The last-minute instructions to Danny Reed. 2 sticks of dynamite. The concussion is awesome. Here we go. This is it. Watch this, ladies and gentlemen. The human bomb. They're counting him down. 2 sticks of dynamite. Look at the people hold their ears. Here we go. There it is. And look at him. He rolls off the side. Is he okay?
He's not moving, Larry.
He is not moving. There goes his manager over to check him out. But he was right there on top, right on the dirt. Let's check him out. He might be stunned. He said sometimes he is. He's done this before. He's moving.
Now, I'm sure he's stunned.
I believe me, he is. Let's take another look at it in slow motion. There it is. Ignites, blows up, pyrotechnics. And they're about 8 inches from his head, those 2 sticks of dynamite, when they go off. Got oxygen out. He shook up a little bit, Margo. No marks on him, though. He looks to be okay. They help him up. And the crowd responds. That is a tough way to make a living.
Of course, he has no idea where he is.
Danny Reed smiles, waves at the crowd. One more time, the explosion in slow motion.
Now, you've got to wonder what Danny Reed's mom is thinking if she's watching this show as her son's rolling down that mound after that explosion.
He's well enough to sign the autographs, and the crowd loves him. Danny Reed, Hollywood stuntman, the human bomb. As the officials tabulate the final score, the crowd makes their way out of the Louisiana Superdome. They got their money's worth tonight. Exciting action from the Superdome. I don't think you could have asked for a more exciting evening. Turbo Tim Arfons in the Starfire jet funny car established his supremacy over the Bushwhacker, and the monster trucks, Margo, the people loved it.
Bigfoot dominated, but you had to feel for Bearfoot. The mechanical problems plagued him all night. I think we'll see that matchup again.
And a great wild race to the mud, Whiplash taking home the bacon. And finally, Danny Reed, a man so tough that when he goes camping, the bears tie their foot up in the trees, blew himself to smithereens. That's...
He is on top of the pile in the points chase on the